ExxonMobil, we can talk about oil companies going into Venezuela. Let's talk about that first, and then let's get to maybe the indirect way of getting to Cuba.
Yeah. Can anyone blame them for being reluctant? I mean, Exxon and Conoco especially, they lost billions of dollars the last 2 times that they were involved with Venezuelan oil exploration. I think the key thing you have to remember here, these companies are spending about $15 to $20 billion a year on their own for domestic and international production. What the president's asking them to do is invest that much or more in Venezuela. So
yeah,
this
but
is not
you
like,
get revenue, you get profits.
You might get
good,
revenue, you might get profits.
Stuff.
Here's the key, though. The Venezuelan oil is not an easy oil to refine. We are talking about our refiners being able to handle this heavy sour crude. It's geared towards Canadian heavy sands oil, right? It's not geared towards Venezuelan. Venezuelan is very different. It has a high sulfur content. It's almost like pavement. Diesel. Yeah, it's great for diesel, but you have to gear the refiners to handle that. They're processing about 5 million barrels a day of Canadian heavy oil sands oil, this heavy sour. It's not the same. There's chemical differences. So it's not an easy switch. So I think this is key. No guarantee that you're going to get the money. We've lost money here before, so why wouldn't you be reluctant as a super major to put more money to work? You've got to secure that I'm going to get a return on my investment. And ironically, at $55, $60 a barrel, you're not getting a good return on it.
If you were a company being skeptical about this, I understand that. But if you were going to thumb your nose up at the prospect while your competitors were going there to do work there, you'll be last in the game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think absolutely totally agree with you. In the long term, there's a valid reason to be there. In the short term, it's just not as compelling. So I think long term, the president's doing the right thing. He's taking the steps to compel and incentivize these companies to invest.
My biggest fear is what happens with this transition and how long does it take? Because if the Democrats win the White House in the next election, then if you're an energy company and all of a sudden you went to set up shop in Venezuela, you could have a serious problem.
Yeah, you get a reverse card Uno on that.
So,
and 3 years isn't that far off.
No.
Okay, so let's talk about the Western Hemisphere, Lou. A lot of people, 2 weeks ago in the Maduro news, relearned our history lessons with the Monroe Doctrine and calling it the Monroe Doctrine, and basically saying if it's in our backyard, it is our moral imperative to just watch our backs, right? And if that means capitalism, so be it. The Western Hemisphere is ours. China, stay out of it. Does that work? Do you buy that?
I do buy it because if not America, then who? Someone else is going to do it. Then China, then Russia. If the president sits and is just still and doesn't do anything, everyone else, our adversaries, are very active. So I think you need to do that. I think you're seeing it reshuffle and make every foreign adversary reconsider what their plans might be. China, what are you thinking about Taiwan necessarily, right? We saw over this weekend, we thought maybe there was going to be an invasion in Iran, right? To help usher that in. I mean, there was rumors of that as well.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. Agreed. Like preparations are being made. So I think the Monroe Doctrine absolutely is necessary. I don't want to boil this whole invasion to get Maduro down to oil like everyone wants to. I think there's a propensity to simplify and say it's always about one thing. It was about oil, or was it about rare earths, or was it about diplomacy and national security? It's how about all of the above? I mean, we talked about this last week. I think the president is, for the first time for a U.S. president in a long time, thinking like the Chinese in decades and centuries, not just in midterms and presidential elections.
And the key is, who would you rather have get involved in Venezuelan oil? The United States, which is because of the fact that we share the same hemisphere with Venezuela. We're a short plane trip away from Venezuela. Would you rather have the Chinese go halfway around the world and control Venezuelan oil, or us? It is a them or us situation.
I want to leave that on that note and set up a good fight between Lou and Brian.
Yes.
I do this.
We might be on the same side now.
Take a look at shares of Apple. Let's see if this is enough to convince Brian. Wedbush comes out, reiterates a $350 price target and an outperform on the stock, basically saying that they think that this is the year for Apple, that 2026, it's a Google Gemini partnership, which, yes, was just confirmed earlier this morning for Siri. It is handing the baton successfully on over to the iPhone 18. And then it is Cook staying on as CEO. No more rumors of his leaving. He's going to be there through the end of 2027, setting this company up. Lou, you still like it?
I still love it. I'm a forever Apple fanboy, but I've owned shares since 2014 at like a split adjusted price of $40. So what's not to love about it, right? So I think I have much more patience. If I was new to the name and thinking about buying it, I think it's a show me stock. I mean, it's trading at the high end of its valuation range. I love me some Dan Ives over at Wedbush and his bullishness, but he gets a little bit, Kathy Wood sometimes get a little ahead of himself. So, to be determined. But I don't think it's the most compelling Mag 7 stock out there. I like Alphabet. I like NVIDIA. I think those on a fundamental and individual basis are much more compelling.
Brian's smirking.
The iPhone 14 user is next with the debate.
Right, yeah,
I wish I had on that advance. Oh, wow. Guys, you should buy Apple. Look, Siri. They got this thing called Siri. It's amazing.
Now,
You'll love it.
Ryan,
if you haven't used it before.
Listen.
And it's going to be powered by a huge competitor.
Gemini.
Wow, Apple must be a great pick. Powered by their competitor, a Siri product that America loves the world over.
This bothers him to no end. They don't have to innovate. They just have to iterate. This is the classic argument you and I have.
It's a good thing they don't have to innovate. They're not innovating, Lou.
2.4 billion devices.
Google is innovating.
Right, but at the purpose of a company is to maximize shareholder value. Apple can do that very simply and easily by exploring and expanding their products and services across 2.4 billion devices.
Or using Google's products and services.
Look, I don't think Apple or Meta should be in AI whatsoever. They should outsource that, because what's the higher purpose of a Meta or an Apple developing bleeding edge AI? Like, there's no purpose for their business.
I don't know. Why would a tech company want to innovate on AI? I don't know.
They should leverage others' work.
I have no idea.
Iterate.
With $1.5 billion in iPhones and $2.4 billion installed customer base, there is that case that they're good to just hang and
That's always
ride the
been a
wave.
winning strategy in business. Just hang and ride the wave.
Woo.
I can't tell if you really like Apple or really like Apple.
Doesn't impact the lower score, because that lower score isn't taking away the reward. The big thing is, all of my rewards are going to go away, right? What if that doesn't happen? Because again, it just cuts into profit. So here's the final issue. Credit card industry wastes billions of dollars in bloated advertising budgets as well, so they can find other areas of cost savings. Not saying I agree, just throwing out there's lots of arguments about people saying the credit card company is going to go bust. Oh my gosh, how do you cap interest rates at 10%? Could it be done?
By the way, you just talked the market into the green. Now the Dow is up 16 points.
Impressive comment.
My question to you back on that, just kind of thinking through this topic, is where does the creep stop, though? If the government gets involved with credit card fees,
I agree.
And you're basically setting a precedent of, well, you have margin available, so therefore we can pressure your business model in ways that we deem of interest to affordability and to whatever the other cause of the day is. I feel like that just goes too far and eliminates free market.
It's such a simple rule, and I've seen it happen all over the world, wherever it's been tried. Price controls don't work, and they always lead to shortages. In this case, the shortage would be credit. So credit would be limited, and whenever you have a limit of the things you can buy or purchase or trade, you have problems. And I just hope President Trump is not married to this idea.
You guys are also overlooking one thing, which is that consumers have options, and in free markets, that's how it works. And credit and lending, buy now, pay later, all this stuff has always been designed to take advantage of the consumer, yet for some reason the consumer buys into it. What if the consumer said, I don't want to pay 20% interest on my credit card, so I'm going to try to pay it off and keep my balance at zero? That would solve that problem. But what do we do here in America? We're a culture built on debt. We're always consuming more than we have. Culturally, I feel many Americans do that. And so it's like, it's written in the Constitution somewhere that should have access to cheap credit, because that's the American way. That isn't. These credit card companies are businesses, profit driven, to your point, Taylor, and they're making big profits, but that is their right. You don't have to consume that.
Yeah, why not crack down on the payday lenders and the check cashing, where they charge exorbitant fees that inversely impacts the poorest company
the
people in America.
CFPB, whatever they are, they tried to crack down on the payday lenders. I mean, looking at the markets, just reading how investors react, I don't think that investors think 10% credit's going to mean more people are going to get credit cards. What they think is more people are going to go into other credit products, like buy now, pay later stocks. Those stocks jumped on the news. Okay, so then you've got that. It gets back to the question of, if I can't get a credit card, am I going to clean up my financial house, or am I going to go borrow from somebody else?
I think if you're addicted to debt or used to using it, you can't overnight just go cold turkey and stop using credit cards and get rid of all your credit card debt. So what you're seeing in the market is a natural reaction. It's like a balloon, right? Here's credit card capacity over here. If we cap interest and people cut down their credit card rates, it's just going to squeeze the balloon, and it's going to go into the buy now, pay later. The capital is going to be financed. Everything's going to be financed somewhere. You're going to use what you need to meet your habit, to meet your expenses right now. I mean, the reality is $1.23 trillion in credit card debt in the United States. We don't have the money to pay that off unless everyone sold their houses. I mean, balance sheets are at like 20 trillion in the U.S.
But the whole system is a design. I'm glad that you sort of made it sound like an addiction, because the whole system is designed to keep people in debt forever, basically.
Rather than following the preferences of the president.
All right. So we talked to Jerome Powell last hour. You're the new voice.
Newbie.
I want to get your take on why you think the president is doing this, how Powell has handled it, and ultimately what you think it means for the Fed.
Yeah, I think the president is doing it because it's his form of verbal intervention, trying to coax the Fed to lower rates because he believes they should be lower than they are, substantially lower, which I don't necessarily agree with. But here's my issue with Powell. Just be quiet, right? You look guilty. What is at risk and what is in question is the independence of the Fed. The left is worried that the president is trying to make it not independent and his puppet. But Jerome Powell, if you're independent, just sit back and do what you're supposed to do. When you have your next policy meeting, share the data that's justifying your viewpoint and showing that you are independent and data dependent. I just think this is right now, he should have just scored the touchdown and just walked into the end zone and handed the ball to the refs and not said anything. It's not a time to make a statement, because now you just look guilty. You bring it to question.
Powell scoring touchdowns?
I think Jay Powell.
I think the guy's fumbling all over the place.
I don't think he fumbled in the first quarter of the game when he said inflation was transitory, but I would tell you that I think the Fed has appropriately lowered interest rates as we've made our way through this economic transition.
So it sounds like to me that you actually do sound like this is retaliatory to a certain extent.
I 100% think this is retaliatory and just unjustified and unnecessary. Just don't, if someone calls you names, don't engage with them. Just keep doing what you're doing. If you know you're doing the right thing, your actions will speak louder than any rebuttal in
But your
words.
criticism is on how Powell is handling it versus Trump going after him. Now, what you first said, which is if you want Powell to cut rates, I mean, throwing a lawsuit or investigation like this at him isn't certainly the way to do it. But
and it wasn't just inflation he got wrong. Look at his growth stats. I mean, he was saying we're supposed to be growing at 2%, if that. By now, we're growing at over 4%, as much as 5% right now. So he's wrong on everything.
And the timing of the cuts he did do.
He's wrong unless he has data that we're not. So my big point with Powell is show your work. It's like math class. Like, show me your work that got you to hold rates as long as you did. That made you think that tariffs were going to be super inflationary.
He told us. Right. He said the inflation boogeyman was coming.
Exactly.
I'm not a Powell fan. Let me just, I don't have a pro-Powell.
But I don't think he's proved himself at all. I mean, he continues to prove how bad he is in all of things. And now everybody's going to be focused on this.
Tell me the last Fed chair that anyone celebrated. Bernanke, Janet Yellen? No, it's the
Greenspan in the first part.
Well, this is why. Basically, Wall Street wanted more from the holiday quarter, and these companies are coming out and saying that the holiday quarter was like in line with expectations, but didn't blow it out. So Abercrombie says net sales growth will be about 5%. But again, not what Wall Street wanted. Birkenstock saying that quarterly revenue fell short of expectations. My question to you guys quickly, did we think this was coming? Was this a weaker holiday quarter than we thought with the consumer that has been under pressure?
I think retail is just always the most volatile sector to consumer sentiment and changes in taste. This is akin to grocery stores, right? Yeah. Investing in them. There's so tight margins. It's just too cyclical for me to even mess with.
What's going to happen with AI this year? Because an integral part of AI is energy. And this president, like no other president in my lifetime, has released energy at the perfect time for AI. So is 2026 going to be another leg up for AI?
I think it is absolutely a leg up for AI. I think the energy bottleneck doesn't become an issue until past 2027, 2028. I think we can fill the gap with natural gas, some creative solutions with repurposing turbines. But I think this is the year that AI goes from just discovery, the large language language models into dispersion. I think Satya Nadella said that, put it that way, that we go from having the know-how and building that know-how to now actually using it for creating solutions. Retail, this is one of those solutions. A couple weeks ago, we did a story on an AI-based company that was telling whether or not returns were fraudulent after the holidays, right? People trying to game the system. So I think there's a lot of ways AI can be used that are yet to be discovered this year.
I'm as worried about willpower as I am about like physical energy power for all these systems, because it knows you. It knows exactly what you want because it's read your book.
You can program
and
that.
Puts it right there.
You can program your thriftiness into the prompt.
It's going to
I want
change
these
your mind.
things at these prices. Scour the internet, and once they come to these levels, I'll
No,
buy it.
it doesn't. You don't program in your thriftiness.
You can.
It programs you to think you're
Brian,
getting
I don't disagree.
a deal.
For Gen Z, one job just isn't enough anymore. From retail to gig work, more than half say they're working a side hustle to earn extra cash. And many are using their day job paychecks to fund passion projects. I like this. I like a side hustle. I like learning that if you can't make ends meet, keep working. Eventually it'll pay off.
I'm all for this, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I like taking risks. I love this idea of using your well-paying day job to subsidize it and underwrite the risk so that maybe you develop your passion that actually can pay you, and then you can make the transition from working for someone else versus working for yourself. This is the quintessential American dream right here, being able to start something up on your own and maybe transition out.
Lou, did you come
We're
up with
partnering
anything?
in that.
I mean, I'm an investor as a side hustle, right? You leverage the money.
Fair.
Yeah.
By the way, shouldn't it be hard to make ends meet when you're young? Why do you think
the grit?
That's
Right.
yeah, exactly.
It's a rite
Part of
of
the fun.
passage.
Like you get out of that by working
That's right.
hard and doing yourself.
Even
kudos to
living
Gen
in
Z
New
for
York
doing this.
City.
Yes, kudos
Yep,
to Gen Z.
absolutely.
Living in the walk-up.
Live in a
not being
garret.
able to
That's
pay
right.
rent.
Live in a garret,
Tell
eat
them,
tuna
let them
fish.
tell
That's
you you're
it.
oppressed, Gen Z.
The S&P 500 is not oppressed. We're at a record high.
Wow.
Charles Payne, over to you.